All right, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining. We have a few agenda items today. Devin is gonna present his work on the system metrics collector. We're gonna go through the board like every week. We're gonna get a roundtable for project status update. And we're going to review the action items from last week. I'm running the meeting instead of Emerson this week. As he's off, he will run the next one again. Let's see. So we had two action items: define a deprecation path for the packages we are adopting. Didn't move. And groom and label issues to get work assignments easier at meetings and create milestones. So I groomed the board before the meeting. We're probably gonna need more to continue working on that. So I'm gonna copy and paste that here. All right. Zach, do you mind taking notes for today? Especially like record attendance, so that we don't need to get through everyone.
Do we have a document?
Yes, I'm gonna ping that on the channel.
Okay.
Well, if I can. I think I need to stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, David, maybe you can start with your presentation.
Sure. So let me share the screen real quick. Okay, cool. So I'll just kind of start, give everybody an overview, and just show a very, very light demo. Part of our roadmap is to instrument ROS2 with some metric collection mechanisms that are not only useful for us, but hopefully useful for the community. So in the tooling org, we have a package called the System Metrics Collector. And here we've created some utilities where we can aggregate measured data in constant time in memory and not only collect them, but go through some publishing mechanism for a generic message. So right now, what we have in the System Metrics Collector is we can collect and publish your system CPU, your system memory, a node which will collect your process memory, and we currently have a PR in flight to do process CPU. So system CPU, system memory, that's pretty self-explanatory. That's something that everybody likes to know. But I think what's really cool is what we've done with the process CPU and process memory. Part of our roadmap is to provide some example launch files and just descriptions of how to bundle the process CPU and process memory along with your ROS2 node. So if someone has their own navigation node, now they can instrument their node and say, okay, it's using this much CPU, this much memory, and they can benchmark it themselves. And obviously we have some other work to instrument it with our CloudWatch metrics node, so you can automatically get metrics out of the box. I've been trying to play around with RQT so we can show some plots. I haven't had luck locally yet, but we'll see what happens. Overall, part of our internal roadmap is to use the collection mechanisms that we've defined, since they're constant time and space, as the utilities that we use for ROS2 topic statistics, because we've been looking at how to do like message age, message latency, and so on. And we'll hopefully have a design doc in a PR for review in January. So let's just look at what's being output. So you can see in the top window, this is just there's a main function that has a debug output. So I can see that I've got my Linux process memory. That's just the main function that's being run. It's hardly taking anything. And then I've got my CPU, system CPU and system memory. The topic echo in the bottom left, that's the message that's being published. So that's published at a rate slower than the collection. Right now, I'm collecting data at 1 hertz, and I'm publishing the messages at an arbitrary once every 10 seconds. And it's important to note that these values are indeed configurable. And honestly, that's it. Pretty simple.
All right. Any question in the room, comment, feedback?
Yeah, this is Alejandro from the Open Robotics. So I have a question regarding if you are logging the data somehow, or you are just for now publishing in a topic, and that's all.
So yesterday I was playing around with logging data to a JSON file. I actually have a Python script that does that. Maybe we could talk after this meeting offline, see if that's useful for your use case.
Why not, maybe it's a naive question, but why not just log the data to a ROS bag?
Oh, yeah, we could do that too. I'm sorry. I went down that path only because I was thinking maybe I could generate some simple plots with matplotlib.
Yeah, all right.
And yesterday in TSC, there's some discussion about some folks are starting to use the log4, which is, Apache project, and it's available. There's log for C, log for Python, log for J, Java. And one thing about that is that most of the analytics tools out there, so people like Splunk, all have support for the log4. So if we get it into log4, then we can get it into all the analytics tools.
So maybe you can correct me here, Joe, but my understanding was there was an attempt to do log4 CXX, but because log4 CXX is not had some bug on Windows, I believe, like there was a decision to switch gear and move ROS2 to SPDlog. Do you know if it's are you talking about that, like ROS2 core logging, or is it something? I don't know.
It might have been something else. It's something that come up in TSC yesterday, and in terms of, my personal experience is log4 works on all the things with all the languages, and when I was at IBM, we used it in every open source project we did.
All right.
So if somebody had a problem with it, I would surmise that it's solvable, because this is very commonly widely adopted open source for logging.
Sounds good to me. We can definitely look into whether or not we have support for that. Any other comment or question? Maybe, Devin, it would be nice to just maybe set the bar about what is the content of what we would see as a first releasable state for that project. So what is the plan and the roadmaps there, and the timeline, maybe?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're looking to finish this about towards the end of January, and what we expect to have completed is so I showed you that we have CPU and memory aggregation for the system. We have memory aggregation for the process. We need CPU aggregation for the process, and a few launch files so people can launch these on their system themselves, and some example launch files and such that people can bundle these with their own nodes. So there's very sparse documentation on the wiki right now. Expect that to change drastically, and also expect our code coverage to increase.
All right. Last chance.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Devin.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item in our agenda, let me just share my screen again. Is to do a roundtable around the projects that we run in the tooling working group.
Yeah.
Just maybe for anyone attending for the first time. So this working group has a bit of a different structure than the other working groups you may have attended, in the sense that we have a set of projects we're contributing to, and we're tracking progress every 2 weeks, just to make sure we are actually making progress. Right now, the projects we are targeting are cross-compile, so a tool to compile ARM-HF ARM64 bits on x86-64 system metrics collector. We just talked about it, ROS2, and a set of GitHub actions to actually implement CI/CD independently of the Open Robotics infrastructure or Travis and so on. So yeah, we can go around the table.
Yeah. So I've been working on the cross-compile repository for the last 2 weeks. We have added support to compile ROS1 packages along with ROS2. So now we support all the non-EOL LTS versions of ROS1, which is kinetic and melodic. The code is in there. We also added a GitHub action workflow to automatically run end-to-end tests. So testing has improved a lot. We plan to continue working on this for the next 2 weeks as well. We're planning to add support for custom packages to be compiled using custom toolchains. That is the immediate work that's planned for the repository. Other than that, we are still actively developing it. So if anybody wants to try it out, and if there are any issues, then just reach out to us on GitHub, and we would be happy to help you with it.
All right. Yeah, I'd like really to highlight the end-to-end testing because it's really good. Really what's happening now is that every night or so, there is really a full run of a cross-compilation. So using the latest state of master, we build a development image from scratch using Docker, and we actually try to compile something. So that's a huge increase in the trust we can have in the tool. We know that a sample project can be compiled, and we are like doing ARM-HF, ARM64,
Yes.
Ubuntu, and kinetic, melodic, dashing.
That will be the case. It was failing for kinetic for some other reasons.
Yeah.
But yes,
So we'll just,
within like a few days, it will have all of these supported.
Yeah, exciting. All right. System metrics collector, we went through it, but maybe Devin, if you want to say one word around like the immediate next step for the project during the next 2 weeks,
Sure. So we have a PR that's in flight for process CPU measurement. Also looking at the launch file and how to do composable nodes. So that's our immediate next steps, but most likely after the holidays.
Yeah, composable is really a big one because I think we're really leveraging the advantage of ROS2 over ROS1 because instead of having to create all of those features, in the core packages like topic statistics in ROS1, we can just let people, write composable nodes and add the benchmarking from the outside. From an architecture point of view, I think it's a real win.
It's a good call out. Thank you.
Ross, back to you.
Okay, so we have ZST implementation working. There's still ongoing work for ROSBAG 2 compression. What needs to be done still is integration of compression and CLI changes so that you can actually use the compression.
All right, that sounds like that sounds like a good thing to merge. So I guess the objective is like in next sprint we finish compression work. Is it kind of the target right now?
It will be usable by next sprint.
All right, awesome. All right, I can give an update on the GitHub actions. So something fairly big is that I renamed them to avoid making them ROS2 specific. So setup ROS2 is now setup ROS because we actually have ROS1 support. So that's a big one. We have better Windows support. I fixed a bunch of bugs. We have better testing. So now in setup ROS, I have actually coverage of all the releases we want to support. So I also improve the documentation to make this clear. I can maybe show that quickly. So here is, so you can see that the README is a bit more verbose now. So it sets the bar very clearly. I know it was an ask from the community and Dirk in particular that we would explicitly state what we want to do. And we want to set up ROS as well as the other actions are going to target ROS2 latest development branch. So you need to be able after running setup ROS to build ROS2 from source. All non-end-of-life ROS2 distributions should be able to be built from source, and all ROS or ROS2 packages, actually could even expand that a bit, should be able to be built from source. So we're aiming for strict compliance of REP 3 and REP 2000, meaning that basically we want to support for ROS2 all tier 1 platforms, and in terms of distribution, we're supporting Kinetic, Melodic, Dashing, Eloquent, and F sooner than later, because we want to track the development on master, which are now for F anyway. So take a look. I tried to make it more usable by adding some more doc. So yeah, and we have testing for everything now. So we have testing for Kinetic, Dashing, Eloquent, and there is Melodic somewhere. So yeah. Anyway, so that's for setup ROS. For action ROS to CI, we can now pass arbitrary flags, CMake flags. So that's gonna enable us to do build and debug CI build. So I'm looking into enabling that today. Another thing that we've been working on is having, so this one is really in flight, so it's not really usable yet, but we're gonna have, where is that? An action ROS CI template, which is going to be a small, hello world ROS2 CPP node with CI enabled so that people can have a starting point. And that's gonna be configured as a template repository, so you can just generate your own repository based on that and fork it. Well, generate your repository from it. That's all for the GitHub actions. What we have next is continuing to improve documentation and announcing it on Discourse. It's going to be the next 2 steps. Questions or feedback? All right. So we can go through the project board review, through the project board and review it. So, I don't know why I have 2 repositories which are not enabled by default. Anyway, we can probably, we did an triage and anything in ROSback 2, we need to follow up with, Emerson is going to follow up with Karsten whether or not we want to do that. We have a bunch of ROSback 2 ones. Let's see if we have anything. We can skip the icebox for the backlog. Yeah, something we have on our backlog that is gonna, I think it's prioritized right now, Prajakta, is that the cross-compile is still doing emulated build instead of cross-compilation.
Yes, that's That's going to be worked on in the next 2 weeks once we have completed all ROS1 support related tasks.
All right. As steps following ROS2 run, so yeah, so we have a documentation task
Yeah.
also. We have a few other small ones on code quality and technical depth that we can probably skip. We have an ask, I think it's Anas, yeah, wanted to get amend lint CMake in the linting CI action. We'll see if we get to that. There is a ticket around your viewer, Devin. Maybe we don't need to get into that now.
Yeah, let's talk about that later today.
Yeah. So we have this one around the CI template, making sure we make it easy to use. We want to also to add a Python example package. We want to block the PRs in system metrics coverage if they decrease coverage, in system metrics collector if they decrease coverage. And we have a bunch of tasks around adding vel as GitHub action. It's a linter for English, basically, so that we don't let the quality drop on the technical documentation. So in progress, yeah, so I'm keeping track of the Greenkeeper. So Greenkeeper is our bot, which is automatically updating the TypeScript dependencies, so making sure we don't have security vulnerabilities. So I am following up on that. And unfortunately, the ROS CI action still does not support the clone build. I still have problems with that. I need to dig into that. Zach, you were asking for the ROS1 bridge support. I think we're ready to give it a shot, but I didn't really have time to continue on the PR initially sent out.
Okay, yeah, I have a open PR on ROSBag 2 Bag V2 since that does use ROS1.
Okay.
I'll give it another look if you say it's working.
Should be. So we had broken paths in code cov that we use for code coverage in the actions. We can close this one. This one is actually done. I validated that it's actually done. Yeah, more dependencies update. I'm still investigating to make sure that ROS2CI is actually failing if CMake invocation is failing. I still need to write more tests for that. So yeah, we have the. Is this one still in flight, Projector?
Yes, I'm waiting for a reply from Karsten. I don't know if he's out right now.
I think he's out right now. I tried to ping him yesterday.
Okay.
All right. We'll get to it.
Yes.
It's the holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
I figured.
And we have the STD, we already talked about that. And this one is unrelated. I don't know why it was moved here, but we'll see. And done. And this one, actually, we had a story around the GitHub action that friends cross-compile. Oh no,
It's
it's for
different.
other one. Okay, I'm gonna put that back into the backlog.
That is to run cross-compile on ROS2 repos, not
I
providing
see.
testing in cross-compile.
We should probably prioritize this one still if it's easy, because I could definitely see an interest into having an ARM build of system metrics collector.
Yeah.
Using cross-compile.
Yeah. It would also be interesting since you'd be able to just download the artifacts.
Right, you wouldn't have to set it up yourself.
GitHub allows you to have like 2 gigabytes of
Artifacts per run.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, should be fine.
All right. I don't think we need to go through the closed ones. Okay, the board seems reasonably up to date. I don't know if we have anything to track in terms of velocity. No, we don't have enough data yet. Well, we'll give it another shot next year. All right. Does anyone else has a topic we'd like to discuss today? Well, I'll take that as a no, and I will give everyone back 30 minutes. Oh, someone?
Just to say I'm fine and have a good holiday.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. See you next year.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Is Alejandro still on?